In the third season, we're going to get Maomao testing and teasing Jinshi, a white red-eye lady who likes to create trouble, a surprising yet innocent love story between Basin and Lishu, the shenanigans of the Lakland siblings, along with their family drama, a near kiss between Basin and Jinshi, the whole plot of Plague, and of course, Maomao devouring Jinshi. But when are we going to see all that? Well, it's not confirmed. So here's a random video on what's going to happen in season 3. Like I said, season 3's release date isn't confirmed yet. There are people who are saying that it might be released in 2027 instead of late 2026. But they followed the 1 year or so pattern before. That's why we can hope for the same this season. As for the storyline, it's going to be epic. Not just because there are some great scenes, but because in this season, the villain is smart, unique, educated, brave, full of tricks and manipulation. She has enough evilness that she nearly started a cult and forced her consort to attempt suicide. Anyways, let's start from the beginning. Some scenes are not going to be too detailed, so if you want the full experience, read from Light Novel 5. So we knew that Maomao was not living with Jinshi anymore, and he had to visit her at the pleasure district to fill her up with the latest updates. And I'm certain that it was just an excuse. He probably just needed to get away from the work and wanted to recharge. But one time when he visited her, after a long while, he looked tired, and Maomao couldn't help but notice the fatigue in his face, the bag under his eyes, hinting that he hadn't rested properly in days. With her usual bluntness, Maomao insisted that he takes a break. You want me to sleep in a place like this? He had asked. She jokes a bit, saying, "Can't sleep on your own?" thinking that maybe he would resent being spoken to like a child. Though before she could add, "That's a joke," he cuts her off, saying, No, I can't. Now I know for a fact what was going on in Jinshi's mind, but our girl had different plans in hers. She asked the madam to prepare everything while she served him tea. Then she led him upstairs to a luxurious room in the Verdigree's house. "You may rest here, sir. Work is important, but you must take care of yourself," she said and went on. "If you want to bathe, a medical bath's ready for you. If you like pajamas, you can use these." She handed him a set of soft cotton sleepwear. Jinshi looked surprised at first, but his smile grew progressively more gentle. "I love how delusional he is," he says. "I believe I shall bathe," and headed for the adjoining bath. Maomao felt a wave of relief and noticed a frowning Gaoshun in the corner of the room. His looks were somewhat softened, and yet he also seems uneasy. Literally everyone was thinking what Maomao was not. "I shan't be sleeping alone," Jinshi repeated before going into the washroom. "No, you shan't, sir," Maomao replied. But just when he opened the door to the bath with an unexplained expression, he immediately slammed it shut and rushed back to Maomao. The mask he was wearing was now back in its place. He demanded why there were women in his bath. "No need to worry, sir. They're professionals," she told him because she thought that he could hardly peel his tangerines, so she figured bathing himself was out of the question. She asked him if he didn't like massages, and he asked if they stopped with just that. They obviously don't. "Still going to have the bath, sir?" "Thank you, I'll pass," he says. "Change of clothes? I can do that myself." Jinshi took off his overgarments and pulled on the sleepwear, while Maomao took a cup and a small teapot from the bedside and poured something for him. He tilted his mask and took a drink. "Sleeping medicines or something?" he asked her. "It contains nutrition to boost your energy, sir," she replied, and Jinshi spat out the tea, drenching Maomao with it. She couldn't help giving him a bit of a scowl. "Why in the world would you give me that?" he asked. "I heard it's the most effective remedy when a man is tired," she replied, and that's when it hits him that Maomao was actually setting him up. The look on his face was a mixture of disgust and shyness. Maybe there are some problem with me being so direct, Maomao thought. While Jinshi couldn't seem to look Maomao in the eye, she continued, asking him what kind of a woman would he like. He didn't understand, making her clap twice, causing a group of 5 stunning ladies to file in from another room. Maomao explained that Lady Soren had once said that he liked women his age. Poor Jinshi was caught off guard. He simply stared at her, his mouth hanging open in disbelief, which was obvious even behind his mask. And Gaoshun, who was first holding his head, was now pressing his forehead against the window. "Are none of them to your liking?" she asked, and Jinshi moved as awkwardly as a puppet. Looking at Maomao, he said, I just want to sleep. Please let me rest. I see, sir. Then pick a woman. Any of them, Mama insisted. I mean, literally, he exclaimed. He was now completely done with her, so her shoulders slumped and all the courtesans left the room. Then she went back to where Jinshi was now laying down and pulled the covers over him. When she went to leave the room herself, she felt him holding on to her arm. Surely you can at least spare a lullaby, he says. She didn't say anything at first. She wanted to tell him no, but he was looking at her with those puppy dog eyes he got sometimes. And anyways, after all the excitement with the bath and the courtesans and everything, it seemed this little break hadn't helped him feel refreshed at all. He refused to let her go, and she let out a sigh. I'm not a good singer, she informs, but he said he didn't care. So gently tapping the covers to keep time, Maomao began to sing an old children's song that the courtesan used to sing to her. It wasn't long at all before she heard Jinshi's breathing take on even rhythm of sleep. I said it before and I'll say it again. My heart gets all warm and fuzzy every time I read these type of scenes of them. Okay, so as we move ahead, Mama suspected something's wrong. Now that she has a younger brat to take care of, expenses are high and locusts are almost everywhere. Another day, Jinshi come back to her with the same problem. She asked him to look for the books about the insects that was lost in the Shi clan storage, and also advises that maybe if people started to eat them, they will decrease. He listened to her completely frozen, saying that they might take it as a last resort. It was clear that he didn't like the idea of eating them. I mean, who would? Apart from Maomao and Shisui, maybe. A bit of a smile came on her face, causing Jinshi to freeze again. She called him and he managed to reply, stuttering just a little. Will you have a meal before you go back? Mama asked politely. Now she was grinning. So it was then Jinshi decides to have dinner before he left, and Mama had cooked the remaining grasshoppers. And honestly, she didn't intend to make him eat them. It was just a bit of a joke. She had every intention of taking them away the moment Jinshi seemed even the least bit upset by her jest. However, when Mama grabbed one of her chopsticks and pretended to feed it to him with uncharacteristic gesture, Jinshi watched her silently. Okay, maybe that's enough, she thought. But just then, Jinshi, with only some hesitation, took a bite of the grasshoppers Mama had offered him as a joke. She felt herself cringe, and she wasn't even the one eating it. To watch Jinshi knit his eyebrow and chew away was to feel that one was seeing something that shouldn't be seen. Everyone else present seemed to have the same sense. They looked as if they had been struck by a collective lightning bolt. Jinshi ignored them all as he chewed and swallowed. He still looked profoundly disturbed, but he turned his eyes on Maomao and asked for kongi. She held out the ball to him, but he made no move to take it. Instead, he looked from kongi to Maomao and back. No wonder she thinks he can't do anything. And the length he'll go through to be babied by her is so cute and funny at the same time. And the fact that he doesn't even stop at just one bite. She kept feeding him the grasshoppers and he kept on obediently eating them, though he didn't look like he was enjoying the taste. Now let's move on to the plot and other parts of the story. Like Jinshi said, a huge locust plague was coming. So like always, Mama used her big brain and with the help of some old medical books that Jinshi finally finds for her, she discovers that deforestation messed up the natural balance. Birds that ate the locusts are gone, so they are multiplying like crazy. If this continues, crops will be wiped out, people will starve, and all the blame will be on the emperor. Now, while she is worrying about that, a weird lady called the White Lady becomes super popular, causing low income for the granny. Then Vahan comes to meet Maomao and takes her to one of her shows in the neighborhood. Along with Ryukyusan, the lady puts on a stage show where she reads minds, transforms metals, and gives out cake to poor people. But something feels off. The cakes are poisoned, and the shows are just tricks and illusions. Of course, Mama and her group isn't fooled, and she knew that this lady is spreading more than just entertainment. She's spreading trouble. Also, if you don't already know, unfortunately, we are not getting Shishui back. But we did get this guy on our team because as it turns out, he's pretty good with herbs. So Mama decides to make him her apprentice. And while he's on the job, he also babysits Xiao Yu, especially after Mama leaves for the west. As another day, Jinshi wrote her a letter saying that they're heading toward the western capital on royal business. Like before, he didn't say exactly why, but it's obvious something serious is going on. So Mama joins him on the journey along with Basin. On the way, they stop at a small village of the quack doctor, which is known for for making high-quality paper. But the village is in trouble. A new greedy landlord wants to kick the paper makers off their land. At dinner, the quack doctor's family show them the 15-year-old land contract with real seals. It's beautifully preserved, made from the villagers' own special paper. But the new landlord claims that it's invalid because the old one was illiterate and didn't understand what he signed. The next day, Mama sets a trap using her incredible alcohol tolerance. She proposed a drinking contest with the landlord's men. If they fail, they'll give her silver, but if they won, she'd sell herself to them. Jinshi, who was acting like Basin's servant there, was obviously not going to let that happen. And while she was pushing their buttons and they were belittling her, one of them comes up to hit her. But Jinshi stood in between, pouring out the stack of silver coins, saying that 300 silver would be a cheap price for this girl. We know that she is priceless to him, but this was so fun to read. Moving on, she did outdrink most of the men, as it was her alcohol that they were drinking and she's immune to it to an extent. One by one, the men pass out. Finally, the landlord drinks the same liquor, collapsed, and Mama collects a final signed contract. When he tries to back out, she calmly threatens to report his secret distillery for tax fraud. He agrees to honor the original land contract, let the villagers stay, and they even promise to send rice to Mama's shop for the next 10 years. It was such a good chapter, problem was solved, and no blood was spilled. Then they continued their journey, and this time they crossed paths with Lishu and Ado's carriage. And as it turns out, it has been stopped by some bandits. Basin and Jinshi goes there and deals with them, and later we get to know that those thieves were using drugs and were actually addicts. And you wanna know who made them that way? It was the White Lady. Mama knew that she was up to something bad, but realizing that she'd been handling out opium, a highly addictive drug, creating cults, and basically turning the outer regions into a mess, she gets a little mad. This wasn't just about gossips anymore, it was about people dying and plague closing in. But she can't really do anything, so she stayed quiet. They reach the west and rumors of Lishu's parentage take the attention. It's the same west from where Lady Yukiko is originally from. Lishu's family is there too, and her nasty half-sister slaps her, clearly seeing her as a rival, while Basin tries to help Lishu in his own ways. Also the trio, Lahan, Rikusen, and Maomao reunites here, and she somehow agrees to attend the banquet as a La Clan princess. Then she gets another hairstick from Jinshi. It has Moon and a puppy, and it's so thoughtful of him because he literally asked them to make it that way. Poppy opium for Maomao and Moon for him. And you know what? Poppy isn't just poisonous. In Chinese, it signifies peaceful rest. It's so sweet of him. But she ends up dancing with Rikusen while wearing that same hairstick. There are obviously reasons for this scene, but I don't think Jinshi was going to understand any of them. He just stares at them from far, while all the other ladies surrounds him. But here's the worst part that raised my heartbeat so badly. At the banquet, there is a performance, and a lion in a cage goes wild. It comes out and it goes straight for Lishu. Our girl was right beside her, and while reading that scene, I was literally so worried. Things got into slow motion, the lion charges toward them, Basin jumps in like a hero, breaking its nose from an iron bar, and the chaos breaks out. Later, it is revealed that Lishu had a certain smell poured all over her, and that's what set the lion off. Thankfully, Lishu is saved, and the good part is that Basin accidentally hurts the man who was supposed to be Lishu's father. No offense, but I really didn't like this guy. Like, just because of his insecurities, he treats Lishu, one of his own daughter, so badly, while for the other, he was the complete opposite. At first, he wasn't going to accept that he was Lishu's father, but Mama confirms it by looking at their teeth. So Lishu wasn't the emperor's daughter, meaning that she was eligible to marry Jinshi, a beautiful, royal, yet childish person who sneaks out in the middle of the banquet and stays with the woman he wanted to marry. This is where the whole choking, testing, playing dumb, and making out scene takes place. And a lot of people are worried because maybe after watching this scene, people will start judging Jinshi a bit too harshly. Though I have high hopes that it won't be a problem, because by the time we get to season 3, I think both of the manga will cover that, meaning that we'll get to see how it actually happened. And by then, we will probably have a renewed translation of that scene too. So I'm hoping it won't cause much trouble. Okay, so this is where the volume 5 ends, with Mama on top of Jinshi in whatever game they were playing. Volume 6 starts with him feeling defeated as Mama has just left him there with all of his youthful feelings. He does go back to his room and thinks about it for a while until Basin decides to start a conversation. A reminder that both of them are going through different things. Basin just fought a lion and Jinshi just faced defeat. So this is where another one of the series' misunderstandings takes place. I did make a detailed video about this scene and the others. If you want to check them out, please do. In short, what basically happened was that Jinshi was complaining about Maomao without naming her and how his partner always gets the upper hand. And Basin was thinking that he was talking about a sparring partner. So like a good friend he is, he asked Jinshi to practice with him and Jinshi agrees after some time without thinking from his actual head, which lead to this scene and Ado barging in on them. That night ends with them shouting at each other. Though Jinshi forgets about it the next day, however, there is a little awkwardness between Jinshi and Maomao. Neither of them talks about the kiss, but after a while they get busy in their work and start investigating the lion incident. From there, things get even stranger. So the perfume that triggered the lion came from Lishu's half-sister, but it also connects to a bride who was supposed to marry a foreign nobleman. Because of that, Jinshi drags Maomao to their wedding banquet, and Maomao immediately suspects that something's weird. The bride is too quiet, everything is too perfect. But before long, the bride disappears, saying that she needs to fix her makeup. And suddenly, fireworks goes off, lighting up the night. It might have been beautiful, but things take a dark turn when someone screams and pointed toward a building. There, high up in the tower, is a bride's body, dressed in white, hanging from the top floor like a ghost. They rush to the scene, but by the time they reach the top, the rope snaps and the bride falls. They find her body at the bottom. It's horrible. Her bones are broken, her skin is burned as she was set on fire. It was clear that this wasn't just a suicide. Someone might have killed her, but surprisingly, it wasn't a murder either. The family has staged the bride's death using her older sister's corpse and planned her escape dressed as a guest. All this was done after listening to a certain fortune teller, who set it all in motion and vanishes before they can find her. But the family's secrets are laid bare and they are dealt with accordingly. After this, Maomao leaves the western capital, but Jinshi is left behind as he had to take care of some more things. For their way back, they use the sea route. Lahan and Zuri get seasick, Rikyu-san watches the bird, and Ado and Maomao just chills there. At their third stop, they meet Kokuyo, a scarred man with a lot of information about medicine. He says that he was driven out of his home village by a superstitious shamans during an insect plague and is now bound for the capital to make his fortune. Lahan, after calculating his potential, lets him join them. Then they make the plan to visit Lahan's house, aka the La Clan residence. And here's a sneak peek about the little drama that's been going on there. So you might have known that Lahan overtook the family and the clan for the better, and while all the others were banished, Lahan decides to be adopted by Lakan, his uncle. This was one of the reasons to why he's seen as a traitor as well. His actual father isn't a bad guy, and his older brother is the same. The person I hated in that family was their grandfather. And you might be wondering why Maomao even went there when she made this face every time she hears her biological father's name. Well, she was under the impression that Lakan was outside the capital for some work. He wasn't though. The grandfather had put him in confinement too, because after Fangshan died, he became a shell of a man, rotting away in closed room. It was one of the saddest things to read, but thankfully Maomao brings him back to normal after playing a game of Go with him. Then they pitch an idea that they will buy Lahan's father's extra sweet potatoes to distribute widely, since there is a lot of production for them. These handy crops are resistant to locust, so planting them in masses could help prevent future famine. Plus, it also ties in with the imperial promise to send grains to Shao, since sweet potatoes could free up more rice exports. So basically, this sweet potato plan was one of the positive outcomes of the family drama. Then Maomao gets back home again and continues her secret investigations. She went to spend time in Golden Lake Village collecting medical herbs, and while staying in the village, Maomao examines local shrines, rituals, and learns something very crucial, that the White Lady's agent uses homing pigeons to send messages and coordinates their schemes across the provinces. She wrote letter to Jinshi with all the information, and Jinshi uses this breakthrough information to finally trap the White Lady. In the end, she gets arrested at the long shot, and the shadowy fortune tellers were unmasked and detained. And in the middle of all this, days, when Jinshi was having Maomao deficiency, Surin told him a little secret about her, a weak point that he was definitely going to use once he met her again. Okay, now let's talk about Lishu again. We've been seeing how her life is so unfair. Her mother died when she was young, the ladies in waiting that works for her are good for nothing, she gets easily fooled, and she believes everyone. So what happened is that after they got back from the West, her periods were late. And back in those days, this means that you were pregnant. And since the emperor never really visited her, it could only mean that she was indecently involved somewhere else. And to make it all worse, one of the ladies asked her to copy a romance novel for her and later presented those copied notes as love letters. In short, they tried their best to ruin her life, but Basin got Maomao there, and after she physically examined her, she told them that it's all a lie. But Lishu had to be put into confinement. And the tower where she was placed was also the one where the White Lady was. She played with her mind for days, and finally when Lishu escaped her room and roams around in the deserted upper place, she lowered her onto a crumbling balcony. There she finally meets the White Lady, who encourages her to jump. Maomao and Jinshi sees Lishu and realizes that her life is in danger. Plus, Maomao came to know that one of the envoys from Shao might be working with the White Lady. In the story's climax, Jinshi and Maomao rush to the balcony to reach out for her, but she, overcome by grief and humiliation, keeps stumbling backwards toward the edge. Then the White Lady laughs, which terrified Lishu, and she fell back. Maomao rushes across the balcony, but the floorboards gave away, and she too began to fall. Just when she was expecting to feel a rush of wind against her body, she felt pressure against her belly instead. Jinshi had caught her at the last second. He had saved her again, but she was unable to catch Lishu, as Maomao's hand was empty and Lishu was gone. But thankfully, she also had a lover boy, the one whose strength was out of his control sometimes, and that guy was Wasin. He literally caught her mid-air by jumping from a nearby building, breaking his both legs, tearing the nails of his left hand, hurting his fingers while trying to slow down the fall. In the end, she was safe and he was happy. As he awkwardly smiled at her, she cried, burying her face in his chest. And that's how they became my second favorite ship. But they didn't get together yet, as the whole series is filled with slow burn. After this incident, Lishu was sent to be a nun for an year. And after that, she will be stripped of all the titles and will be returned to her family as a commoner. Spoilers from volumes ahead, they did meet again, and that time they kind of confessed their feelings as well. But she did not agree to join/marry him because she wants to become better enough so she won't burden him. And he thinks that he needs to be strong enough that he could carry her burden forever. It's so cute, it's so heartwarming, and she deserves all the kindness in this world. That was it for Lishu and Basin. Now let's talk about that one weakness that Maomao has. You might have already know this. If you didn't, let me tell you that Maomao is very ticklish. She can't stand being tickled on her feet and her back. When Jinshi gets to know about this, he had to try it out. And after like 5 to 6 volumes, he finally won in one of their games, as he tickled her away and Maomao laughs uncontrollably. He got his payback and we got one of the best scenes. Plus, he did it 2 times in the same volume. You can find the detailed video on the playlist if you want. I guess that was it. Tell me your favorite scenes from Light Novel 5 and 6. Alright, I hope you enjoyed the video. Take care of yourself and goodbye.
No, you'll never be the same. I don't really want to hurt you, but I can't control the pain. If you're sticking by my side, maybe we could be okay. Okay, maybe you could be the change.